Welcome everyone to the first ever S&A Committee for the 2024-2025 academic year. I call this meeting to order at 3:30 p.m.
I know, it's so official, right?
Moving with the third agenda item, agenda approval, is there a motion to approve that?
Oh yeah, it's on the.
Get here. Why anything? Is there a second? Second. See that there's a second. The agenda for today's. We'll be moving on with two reports. Chair has no reports for today. Advisors.
I have one report. Aaron and I both sent financial reports and our program reviews to all of our base funded areas and reminded them that they're due December 1st. So that's 3 reports that they're due: the base funded request, the annual financial report, and their program review that we would start in winter quarter. And I did get a request back to extend the deadline of the program review to December 15th instead of December 1st. So that's something I'm bringing to your all's attention. If we'd like to discuss it, we can, or if I can provide some more context about what that does. You all are on break, so Aaron and I review all of those reports prior to setting the schedule for winter S&A fees, so then that way we can make sure that everything's correct, they filled out the reports correctly, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that Aaron and I really have an opinion of whether you all make the decision. It would extend it for everybody, so it would give them an additional, I'd like to give them an additional 2 weeks, which would be the 13th of December instead of the 15th because it's a Sunday. But if that's something you would all like to do, happy to make that happen.
That's the deadline for base funding.
It's not base funding, just for the program reviews. The other 2 documents are policy driven and due by December 1st, so we cannot make that decision to change it. It's just the program review document where each of the areas that got funding explains how they spent the money, what they used it for, and answered the generic questions about their program for the year.
And that doesn't actually, hopefully all of you are having a nice winter break during that time. And so everything will still be ready for you all when you came back from here.
Is that something you'd like us to vote on?
If you all would like to vote on, we conferred and Aaron and I are fine with it. We're fine with extending that if you all find that. We'll just make it equitable amongst all areas of program review, not just the one who requested.
So I don't think we push that to business.
Sure.
And for me, the only thing I wanted to report on is that I am, like Robbie said, the financial reviews went out, which is similar to the program review. We send out their financial statements for last year. And then there's a few questions related to how they spent their funds. And so that will come back to you all. And then I am working on creating a recommendation for your supplemental funding budget. Last year, it was the decision was made to sweep back all of the unspent funds, which of course was good. And then the idea was that whatever was unspent from last year would be what we had available to allocate out for this year. And that was just kind of what, you all have to still make that decision. I feel like it's going to be around the $200,000 mark of what you would have to be able to award for supplemental funding, but I'll confirm that, do a little bit more nerdy accounting things, and then let you know next week what that actual budget is. But just want to let you know.
Thank you. Moving on to ASCWU.
That estimated related fund membership is election day, guys are voting or have yet to nominate. we will have the election engagement, student engagement on the district poll on the second floor. So if you guys are interested, if you guys need more information, we will have pamphlets, so you guys can need more information on initiatives that we're going to be putting up. We have that up there as well. We're non-partisan, so we won't tell you which way to vote. We will just give you more information so we can educate vote, educated vote. Other than that, we'll also have the election watch party downstairs and the certificates. So if you're interested, that'll be helping. Basically all day.
Moving on to item 5, communication proceed. Do we have any?
I have no communications.
Moving on to public comment, is there any public? Okay. Okay, moving on to new business. This I just need to put reminder. Do presenters have a specific amount of time? Or is it just by their presentation?
It's just their presentation.
We have discussion.
Correct. We have Q&As.
Alrighty, first item in business supplemental funding request presentation from Pulse Magazine requesting $18,000, $18,615.
Is that okay if I go ahead and just share the screen that way? If the group jumps on.
That's totally fine.
Share. Oh, should be shared at the very top of the screen. Oh, I don't have it. My apologies. Thank you. I'm actually going to go around because of my bars there.
It's been a long time since these have been in. So,
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for having us here today. I'm Gretchen Lose. My title is Business Manager for Student Media. And I've seen a few of your faces before. I've presented over the last 2 years. I wanted to start off by saying that when you think of a supplemental fund request, you think that we're asking you for new money. What we are actually asking for is the reallocation of funds to one of our student media organizations, which is CNW. For those of you who may not know, Central News Watch, or CNW, is one of 3 student media organizations, actually one of 4 now. It is our news broadcasting organization, which delivers news to the student body and community through a visual format. It's overseen by myself and a faculty advisor. Unfortunately, our faculty advisor retired last year, so it is now without that component, which means we cannot offer it this academic year, which means the $18,615 that is allocated to it is not being utilized. And if it continues to sit in there, it cannot be utilized this academic year. What we propose, and this is a little different than the original request we put in, and you may recall that we did something similar last year, is we want to take that $18.6 thousand that is not being used, and we want to allocate it to our other 2 main student media programs, which is Pulse Magazine and the Observer newspaper. Both of these are kind of cousins to Central News Watch in the fact that they serve the same purpose, which is to deliver news and entertainment to our student body and the community around Central. That means that the spirit of why the money is allocated lives on. So it's essentially serving the same purpose as if Central News Watch was up and running. But the difference between Central News Watch and these organizations is that Pulse and Observer have the infrastructure, aka a faculty advisor who is here with us today, Dr. Jennifer Green, to oversee the students, which means that we can actually put that money into things like wages and printing costs and that sort of thing. I want to touch base on our impact that we have at CWU, particularly for the Observer and Pulse. Both of these publications give a voice, a multidimensional voice, or sorry, excuse me, a multidimensional student experience. They highlight student stories on campus. No matter what the background, socioeconomic status is, the Observer and Pulse capture student experience. It also creates a more informed student body as they report on local and campus news. And it also contributes a sense of cohesion in the student community. And what I mean by that is that they are students reporting news for students. They are student made, from everything from the design to the editors, to the photography, to the web management is all done by students for the student body. However, we do face challenges. All too often these days, we hear the term budget cut, and our prices are growing. Budget cuts and minimum wage increases have led to cut student hours. The Observer, before the pandemic, I want to say, was up to 100 hours per week across a variety of positions, student positions. We have cut that down to 83. Pulse had anywhere between 25 and 30 hours. It is now cut down to 20 hours per week for 2 positions, which is our editor-in-chief and also our lead designer. This just makes it hard for the publications to function, considering how much time and effort the students have to put in to make these publications possible. Minimum wage is set to increase to $16.66 per hour in January 2025. That's a 38-cent increase, which of course adds up over the period of a week, over the period of a month, over the period of a year. And that means that the limits on staff are even more extreme, which means our students get fewer opportunities, and this jeopardizes these publications and therefore jeopardizes the impact we have on campus. So let's talk about where we stand right now. This is our forecast for Pulse for the end of this year, and you may think that we are going to be $2,800 in the red, or sorry, in the black, which you would classify as a good thing. However, this forecast is based off of less than $100 per month for wages, which is not feasible. It doesn't even cover one position. So a more accurate forecast would be about $6,500 in the red, which means that we are in jeopardy of going into a deficit. For the Observer, you're looking at what we might say is breaking even, only $87 in the red. However, this number is really reliant on the revenue that we bring in, which is from ads. So that $87 in the red is really dependent on if we can break in that $15,800 in ads, which is not a guarantee. Really, our life source is base funding from S&A. So where we could be if we got the money from the Central News Watch budget, the Observer has a huge web presence and is starting to grow its social media presence, and this requires paid labor for a student. We ask for about $2,300 to cover this 5 hours per week position at the new minimum wage, which would bring that 83 hours per week back up to 89, which is just closer to a full staff. For Pulse, we are currently at 20 hours per week, as I previously stated. We do want to add 15 paid hours more so that we can pay our lead photographer what they're worth, as well as another social media and web manager for the Pulse magazine. That would leave the remaining $16,327 to go into Pulse magazine, and anything that's not covered in wages within that $16,000, we would use to send our students to the ACP conference in the spring. Actually, I don't know if they're tuning in right now, but we currently have 7 students at the ACP conference, which is Associated Collegiate Press Conference for fall in New Orleans. Hopefully they're tuning in. These conferences are great in the fact that it gives us, our students, a way to network with professionals, meet other students from around the country, and also win awards for Central, which is a bonus. But so we're wishing them good luck, and hopefully can send them in the spring as well. So to kind of wrap up, what we're asking for you to do is reallocate the Central News Watch funds to Pulse and Observer in those amounts that I mentioned previously, so that you can better support the students and the staff that work hard on these publications that brings that news and that life source to campus. Potentially, we could regain the full staff and even further support the students by sending them to conferences and giving them those opportunities. And it will also help cover the minimum wage increase that is happening, which needs to happen, in my opinion, but is happening and affecting our budgets. So we ask you to help us make an impact like you did last year. Last year, the S&A funding that came from that split, I believe it was a 50-50 split from CNW into Observer and Pulse, helped us climb out of the deficit. But now we need the opportunity to actually give our students the opportunity, not just survive. We thank you for your time, and we're always in the hall if you want to say hi.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yes, so just to clarify, you'll be splitting the $18,000 not evenly for Pulse and.
Correct. Pulse is going to be in a larger deficit as far as I can tell than the Observer. But more importantly, what we want to do is cover that 5 hours per week, the social media and web manager for Observer. And Pulse can not only cover the potential deficit from wages, but could also help potentially cover that ECP conference in spring. But right now at Pulse, we only have the 2 paid positions, which is the lead editor and the lead designer. Our photographers are not getting paid. People managing the website are not getting paid. And it's important to us that those students, because they work way over the credit hours for the class, it is vital that they get monetary compensation. So that's why we ask for the remainder to go in Pulse.
And do you expect Central Response to come back?
We are trying. We do not have the ability to hire a new broadcasting faculty member. So for the foreseeable future, it will not return.
So you're not expecting this $80,000 permanent solution to minimum wage increases?
Correct. So when we apply for the next 4-year cycle funding, we will ask for an increase in our base funding from the get-go, so that we're not continually coming back up here and asking you for more money. But for Central News Watch, our plan is to request that money in the new 4-year funding cycle instead of coming up here every year.
Would this amount also cover the competition?
So we are currently budgeting for the conference in spring. We would like to send 4 to 6 students. And that will really depend on if we end up in the black with this allocation, which I am predicting we will, especially in Pulse. And my prediction is that it will. If it is not, we will ask for a supplemental fund request where we do ask for new money. But for this, we are asking for money that's just not utilized.
I actually have a question more for Vice. So like so we're talking about reallocating, so that CMW money, was that just sitting there, was not getting used, or was there?
So what would happen is, if the money has been allocated out and, assuming that nothing changes with that, then we'll just bring it back to, the S&A fund at the end of the year. And then potentially that would be what is part of the supplemental budget for next year.
Okay.
I would urge you though that if you're going to take that money back for supplemental funds next year, those are funds that are not currently asked for. They are funds that could potentially happen in the future, whereas our students could use this money now.
Is there any other questions?
I just was hoping maybe you could clarify with the part that's related to the class, like part of Pulse is a course requirement, and of course supplemental funding isn't for course stuff. So I was hoping you could clarify just that point for everybody.
Yeah, so students can take Observer and Pulse as a class from 3 to 6 credits. Leadership often takes it for 6 credits, which means they have certain hours outside of the classroom that those course credits go for. However, a lot of times, and I think it's 9 to 10 outside of class.
Hours.
Yeah.
So I believe it's 2 hours outside of class per credit, plus the 1 hour in class.
But our students, for example, on Observer, will spend well over 20 hours a week on the publication, which is why we want to give them that monetary compensation, because they work over those credit hours.
So you're planning on hiring 3 new positions?
Yes, over the 2 organizations.
And then Pulse and the Observer are both classes, correct?
Correct.
So how many students are in those classes?
The ones that we pay or enrolled in the class entirely.
Enrolled in the class time?
Observer, I want to say has,
Usually about 15 each, sometimes up to 20. And of those on Observer, we have between usually 7 to 10 people paid positions that are in editorial or leadership positions. And the Pulse, like Gretchen said, we have 2 to 4 paid positions. And that's lead designer, the photographer, the editor, and sometimes associate editor. So that would be 2 to 4 people out of the 15 to 20 people.
it's worth pointing out that leadership or kids who have taken the class before and then move up to those editorial positions or lead positions are the ones that we pay. We don't pay every student who takes them.
Is there any other questions? And then, you mentioned deliberation now.
No, that'll be next week and do the, next week they'll deliberate and then vote on.
If there's no further questions, we'll move on. Thank you so much for presenting.
Thank you. And if you haven't read Observer before, we did bring some of our latest copies. Our Pulse copies have run out. That's how popular it is. So we're welcome to take one.
Okay, moving on to
Thank you.
item number 2, supplemental budget request. Lion Rock Looping Rider Series requesting $4,000.
Thank you so much for having me. Just a clarification before I do my presentation. We did ask for supplemental request in February. This is the same one, so we're not asking for extra money. It was just a sort of a bad timing for us because we were always going to use $4,000 for 25 fiscal year. So it was a mistake on my part by making this suggestion of presentation early. So just as clarification, it's the same presentation. So Lion Rock Visiting Writer Series is an author series housed in the English department. I am a creative writer teaching fiction and nonfiction. I also chair our Visiting Writer Series. And what we do is we invite authors, poets, writers, industry professionals, agents from across the country, from diverse backgrounds and diverse fields, to come to our campus or for virtual visits to give a craft talk or a reading or attend publishing panels for our students. And in those craft talks and public readings, our students attend, get to know these authors, interact with them, share their own works and get professional feedback on their works through a few sort of courses that we also teach in spring. I will mention that, but also a few other personal touches that we allow our students to connect with these authors. In publishing panels and personalizations, we also allow them to get to know about editors, industrial professionals, agents by talking to them, asking about the contemporary literature scene to see what kind of jobs, what kind of opportunities they might have beyond their graduation and after their graduation. So we try to also prepare them for what's to come after graduation. We also have initiated virtual funds for our faculty members to invite researchers, authors, speakers to their classrooms, aside from our usual craft talks and public readings, to give a talk or to talk to their students to give a presentation on the very topic that they are interested in or they are expert in, which gives our faculty a lot of opportunities to bring experts to follow, to support their course outcomes. Also give our students an opportunity to meet the authors of the writers or the writers whose works that they are reading and they are studying in their classrooms. One of the things that we're really proud of is our student internship. So this year we have one virtual intern, who is working with me at all times in all the quarters in organizing these events with me at the background, who's working with the promotional materials, who's working with the Pulse and Observer to get the word going, who is also responsible for organizing our student readings at the end of each quarter, which is available for our students. They provide their own materials, they organize their own readings, and they also get together to read their works that they produce during the quarter. So we kind of think of these readings as the culmination of the work that they produce in their classes. So they get together in those readings that they they themselves create. So let me. So our goal is to bring these industrial professionals and contemporary writing to our students, give them a chance to meet those authors, professionals, to talk to them, to interact with them, to listen to their craft processes or publication processes so that they can understand what kind of roadblocks or what kind of experiences they will have to face after their graduation. And also some professional experience in internship to get to know how these organizations and events are being held in partnership with other departments. So this is just an example how we spent our base money. The biggest chunk goes to speaker fees, either virtual or in person. The second one is accommodation. If we host our speakers in Ellensburg, we get to host them in a hotel. And we also take out them to a dinner. And our interns and a few select students also join those sessions to sort of have a more intimate relationship, more intimate sort of interaction with the authors in question. Last year, we invited just a selection of our speakers from the spring events. Julie Patterson, a queer poet and author, joined us for a craft talk and a reading. Callum Angus, a writer from Portland, trans author and educator, he joined us for another craft talk. He also gave feedback on 3 student papers for the class that we're teaching. This class 498 it's a colloquium that is taught in conjunction with the Lion Rock authors. So in that course, the professor teaches the books of these authors that we invite through Lion Rock, so they get to read and they get to meet the authors and speakers that they actually study in those courses, in that course. And Maya Jewel Zeller is also our faculty, she also joined us. We also go into partnerships. I will talk about this just a little bit. Ellensburg Library and also Kittitas County Library to expand our reach to Ellensburg. So we initiated a climate change author event last year. So this year we are again going into a partnership with Latino and Latin Studies. Also Dr. Ortega from Student Activities. They are going to help fund our first author, Marcelo Castillo, who will be joining us this winter. Jessica Archibald is a graphic author, graphic memoir author. We are also trying to give our students a wide variety of writing. And Tara Campbell, we will be in partnership with Humanities Washington in Seattle. They are going to help us fund the event, and she will be joining us in May. I'm hoping that you will be able to see, but if you can, let me just sort of summarize our budget proposal. Right now, based on the assumption that we will be getting the supplemental fund, we are in the red for $20. What we're trying to do this year is to be able to fund all our speaker series in partnership with other departments so that we can have extra funding. But we're also trying to give our internship a stipend to respect and to show our appreciation for their labor. So far, we haven't been able to do that because we only receive $3,000 base funding per year for the S&A, which wasn't enough, especially after the inflation following COVID. So we're hoping to pay our intern at $300 honorarium, but moving forward, we would like to increase that amount a little bit more at a respectable level to show our appreciation for their labor, because they are really working behind the scenes. Let me see. So yes, this is our final budget proposal. Fortunately, we will be able to go into a sort of, we will not be having a budget deficit because of the extra fundings, extra partnerships that we're going to be making with student access and Latino studies. Thank you so much for listening to me. I would be more than happy to answer your questions.
Oh, thank you. Moving into the Q&A session. My first question is, I can take a picture of that. What's the total
Yes. So the total amount, in conjunction with the Cardin's funding addition, our final amount, it's going to be, let's see, $8,530, and we will have $8,470. So we will be in the red at $60. But this doesn't account this $800 we will be getting in partnership with the Latino studies and the student access. So we will be in the sort of white, we will be sort of in the green. I haven't added that yet. But of course, this all depends on the supplemental fund of $4,000 that we are hoping to get. Otherwise, we will be in the black. Yeah.
I have this question too. And also, so why request supplemental funding when you could request more?
We will do that too, but fortunately, unfortunately, we have spent all our base funding for next year to 24-25. We won't have any kind of money to spend on our speakers fee. So we will have only $4,400 to spend until the next year. So where next base funding will come into effect. So that's why we need that $4,000 to spend for our winter and spring series. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just add one thing really quick, that I'm not sure if you all, if it was clear, this last year, we had the same request last year. It was approved, and with the timing, they weren't able to spend it. So they were awarded this big, this supplemental funding, and then we rolled it back because it was unspent. And so this is the same request, and it's not additional money to last year's supplemental funding request. So I don't know if that, just wanted to add that little information for you all that kind of help consider. And
so we were always hoping to use that $4,000 in 2025. So I should have actually presented right now rather than presenting in February. That's on my part. So we haven't, of course, used that money, so it rolled back to S&A. So we're just hoping to, again, get that approved amount to use and spend in 2025. It's just a sort of timing error on my part. So apologize for making you do things twice.
We're like 2025, but estimated 2024.
Yeah, that was my mistake.
And is that the speakers here returning spring quarter, are they already scheduled in sets, or is that still being?
Scheduled and confirmed, but we haven't started the contract process because we don't have the approval. So we were just waiting for that one. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, so like for the speaker fees, and like the meals, I assume that's part of the contract process, including the meals and stuff.
Sorry.
So like when y'all pay for the meals as well as the fees, I assume that's all part of the contract?
Yes, it's all written in the contract. We have a sample sort of template and we work with the contracts office. It's all written there. So the writers also know what kind of sort of stipend that we're going to give them, and including the accommodation of it.
I'm not sure. But how did clients run in this position where they have to request something?
That's a very good question. So our base year budget was determined 3 years ago, $3,000. Actually, I had a slide that I just took out. It actually showed that we only received 0.00004 of the total S&A budget. So we're getting an incredibly small amount. I don't know why that budget proposal was done 4 years ago. I wasn't there. Because of COVID, because of inflation, suddenly our expenses got doubled, tripled. So we ended up in a position that we could only spend so much money before we go into sort of debt. Of course, we didn't want to do that. So that's why we had to come in front of you to ask for a little bit more money.
Is there any other questions?
May I ask you a question? We were hoping to use S&A budget to pay our interns. Would that be okay? Would that be sort of part of?
I think as far as allowableness of those go, are the interns related to a class?
No, but yes, they are sort of registered to 490 internship.
And is
Taking
the
credits.
internship part of getting those credits?
Yeah.
That probably would need to be like that's not included in this, is it?
It is included.
It is. So that part that's the $300.
Yes,
I think that because it's not a general student position,
mhm.
then it probably would not be allowable, but I will reach out, to my phone friend Joey. And just double check, because normally, like, if they are required to take the course, then it should probably, I would say probably no,
Mhm.
but I'll double check.
I talked to Dale from the student internship to get their opinions, and they said they would encourage us to actually pay the students. So that's the approval that I got from him. So I want to ask.
Sure, the question is where the money for paying them comes from. Is it part of the class, which would be the state side?
Okay,
Or is it actually more related to a student activity and student service? And so that is really the deciding
Okay.
factor of whether or not that portion of it is allowable.
okay,
And which I'll double check and see if I can figure that out.
very much appreciated.
And perhaps when you all deliberate next week, then we can provide that information. And then, of course, when you all are deciding, you can choose to fund something entirely, not at all, or partially. And so we can figure that detail out for next week.
Yeah, we really would like to support our interns for their labor, so it's very important for us. I hope it could be done. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Is there any other question? Seeing that there is none, I'd like to thank you for your.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I apologize, we will have to motion to, amend the agenda to add the push for program people. So I will call for to amend. Is there a motion? Motion. Second. Second. Second, all in favor, say aye. All opposition. Oh, is there anyone else?
No.
Oh, okay. We will now add much for the program review as item number 3 under supplemental request, sorry, new business. All right, is there a motion to push for the program? Motion. Second. I second the motion. Seeing that in a second, all in favor? Aye. All against? Okay, we will now be moving on to new business, old business, seeing that there is none, we'll move on to public comment. Seeing that there is no public comment.
I'll make a public comment.
yes.
I just wanted to publicly thank you all for your time that you are and will about spending on it committee, and so thank you. Publicly.
I also have a public comment, and more of a conversation piece or something for Nick. We were talking about, that we have a small committee and we have a couple of students out today. Are we planning on trying to recruit more committee members? Okay, great.
This is gonna be next quarter, again, this for committees specifically as a whole, but thinking about another committees to draw students' attention to committees, especially this name. I'm still gonna be working on this quarter, but that's gonna be a big push for next quarter.
Let me know if you need help. I talked to Joey and asked for some suggestions, and he gave me some suggestions that potentially I could help with finding some of those students. I'd like to add to that, if anyone is interested, I just recommend going on the ASU website, maybe you have some friends. And the best way to get them started is to have them fill out that form if they're interested on the ASU website, so it can then be processed by them. And if they have any questions by that, they can always reach out to Nick or me directly. Nick.
Seeing that there is no public comment, we'll move on to item 10, adjournment. I call this meeting to rest. Oh, yes, sorry. Is there a motion to adjourn today's meeting? I say that. See you later, second, all in favor? Okay, all opposed? All. We're not doing it, no, I'm just kidding. All abstaining, seeing that there is none, we are officially adjourned at 4:11 p.m.
Wow, everyone.